I got to tell you guys, I went to a Donald Trump rally a couple nights ago. Never been to one. I had an event across the street. I saw the line of people waiting in the cold for hours. And I thought, what the heck? I'm going to be a leader who actually invites people, doesn't condemn them. Met probably 50 Trump people waiting in line. Every single one of them, thoughtful, hospitable, friendly. All of them so frustrated that they feel nobody's listening to them but Donald Trump. A diverse crowd, people who had never been to a Trump event before. My party is completely delusional right now.
That was Dean Phillips. He's running for president in the Democrat primary and got 20% of the vote in New Hampshire. While he was in New Hampshire, he attended a Trump event and looked to be surprised that the Trump voters were thoughtful and friendly. And he learned why so many people support Trump. Because no one else will listen to them. And he added that his party is delusional. Now let's talk about that last part first. I would agree that the Democrat Party is delusional, but not necessarily for the same reason he gave in the interview. He thinks they're delusional because the party believes Biden can beat Trump in November. And maybe that is delusional. But let me explain why the Democrat Party is delusional. First, let's start with the definition of the word delusion. 1A, something that is falsely or delusively believed or propagated. That describes exactly how the Democrat Party is treating Trump. They are delusively propagating things like, if Trump wins, he'll become a dictator. It'll be the last election. It'll be the end of our country, etc. And those who are pushing that delusion are turning people into the psychological definition, which is 1B, a persistent false psychotic belief regarding the self or persons or objects outside the self that is maintained despite indisputable evidence to the contrary. Or, by its political name in this case, Trump derangement syndrome. Democrats are constantly painting the most horrific picture of Trump, but they don't believe what they're saying. That's just the way they play politics. That's their playbook. Anything goes. It can be hypocritical. It can be a lie. It may not even make sense, but as long as you can convince some people to believe it, it's an option for the Democrats. A great example is the YouTube short I put out recently called Joe Biden Debunks Himself. So Biden is out there talking about guns again and repeating this talking point.
If you wanted to think you need to have weapons to take on the government, you need F-15s and maybe some nuclear weapons.
So for Americans to take on the government, we would need F-15 fighter jets and some nuclear weapons? But what about this, Joe?
January 6th. A date forever shared in our memory because it was on that day that we nearly lost America.
Well, which is it? Would Americans need F-15s and nuclear bombs to overthrow the government? Or did we almost lose our country when 1,000 unarmed citizens rioted at the Capitol? Can't have it both ways, Joe. Democrats in Washington don't believe for a second that we almost lost America on January 6, 2021. It's completely delusional. It has been delusively and falsely propagated by the Democrats and their media mouthpieces. Just like they don't believe Trump called all Mexicans rapists or that he called neo-Nazis very fine people. But there are many voting Democrats who believe them. They've been tricked into believing something despite indisputable evidence to the contrary.
And you had people, and I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally.
Now let's get to something else Phillips said in that clip.
All of them so frustrated that they feel nobody's listening to them but Donald Trump.
That's it. That is it. My father complained about the problems at the southern border for my entire life. Problems that are worse today because of Joe Biden than they've ever been. But when Trump finally started to address the issue, unlike the many unkept promises made by other presidents, my dad felt like Trump was listening. Another example would be moving our embassy in Israel to Jerusalem. Many presidents said they'd do it, but Trump actually did it. Dean Phillips has this exactly right. Trump voters feel like the Washington establishment politicians aren't listening to them, and Trump is. I would like to add that I completely reject the notion that it's a cult of personality. The reason people are so passionate about DJT is because these voters have been lied to and disregarded for decades by those in power, by even the politicians they helped get elected. Then finally, someone comes along and comes through on those promises and gets treated the way Trump has been treated. They take it personally. The accusations from racism to Russian collusion to Trump leading an insurrection, all lies. I mean, the Democrats impeached Trump for something Joe Biden is on record admitting to doing.
I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired.
After Phillips explained to the CNN ladies that his party is delusional and what he thought of the people he met at the Trump rally, their follow-up question tells us a lot.
You would rather, though, have Biden in the White House again than Trump in the White House.
You see, the people at CNN weren't a bit surprised that the Trump voters were thoughtful, friendly, and diverse. If the narrative that Democrats push about Trump voters was true, the two Democrat reporters would have been surprised and maybe asked a follow-up question about it. You do remember the Trump rallies in 2016, don't you? The narrative was that Trump supporters were violent racists. There were always fights breaking out, and when Project Veritas proved that it was the Democratic National Committee and the Hillary campaign sending agitators to start trouble at those events, it wasn't big news. In fact, it was ignored because the Democrats are delusional. I'll put the link to that Project Veritas video in the description so you guys can watch it again. And here's something else to think about. If we have proof that the DNC sent agitators to Trump events in 2016 while Hillary blamed Trump for the violence, why should it be delusional to want to investigate if the agitators on January 6th were paid by the Democrats to create the chaos? Just a thought. Look, Dean Phillips may have gotten his reasoning wrong, but he sure is right. The Democrat Party is absolutely delusional. The narrative about Trump is something that is falsely or delusively believed or propagated. The textbook definition. And that's the simple truth. Hey guys, thanks for watching. And if you all want to support this channel, check out the links in the description and let's keep putting some common sense back into the great debate.